Well, good morning, Bill. How are you?
I'm super fantastic. I
Can't
tell
wait
you,
to.
this hour change is killing me.
I'm the same. I am absolutely the same. This is one of those things. Yeah, well, I want to talk about in just a second. Hold on, let me. Good morning, everybody. This is the All About Nothing kind of daily show. I am Barrett Gruber, host of the All About Nothing podcast with Zach King, and you can find me on social media at Barrett Gruber. Also with me, Mr. Bill Kimmler, host of Black, White, and Blue in the South with Dr. Jameel Brooks. You can follow him at Political Bill SC. Bill, yeah, uh, absolutely, 100%. Time change is the still continues to be the worst thing that's ever been invented and held on to into the 21st century. Well, that and fascism too.
Yeah, I don't know which one I would give up if I can only give up one. I'd have to think about it.
See, I would just go ahead and go with time change. I would go ahead and get rid of time change because we'll never truly get rid of fascism. There's always going to be.
Who knows? Maybe fascism is caused by grumpy people who lost an hour of sleep.
Oh,
Maybe you kill two birds with one stone.
I have no problem oppressing a whole population of people right now. That would.
So like today, we do this thing at 5:30 in the morning. So I'm up at like quarter to five, 4:50 to take
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shower, make the coffee, take
yeah,
care
yeah.
of the dogs, right? To do the chores, to be ready at 5:30 for whatever the hell this is. Now, with the hour time difference, that meant I was waking up at 3:45 according to my body, and I
Right.
don't get up at 3:45, not even for surgery, right? It's what are we doing here? Why
Yeah.
didn't we shift our time to 6:30 to go
I
along with the clocks?
Yeah, I was so I well, because our bodies don't do that. But I was so Sunday night, I was watching the local news, and I can't remember which station it was specifically, but in the news broadcast, they brought on some farmer from I think it was Orangeburg, and she asked, she said, which do you prefer? She asked the farmer, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the daylight savings time, which is now, or do you prefer standard time? And he said, "Well, I prefer that the sun, be up a little later into the evening, and so I guess I prefer the standard time or the daylight savings time." And she said, "Well, does the fact that the sun is up the same amount of time every it doesn't really change it moves as far as our conception of what time is. It moves back and forth and it expands, and but as far as the actual day goes, the chickens are still going to get up, the roosters are going to crow when they crow based on their rhythm of waking up." And and he goes, uh yeah, I guess that's right, it don't really matter. And
Oh my.
it was like one of those little gotcha moments in the report.
Well, I saw you get online with a little bit of a live stream complaining about the change in time. You looking like you just came in from a 24-hour bender and all you did was lose an hour's sleep. Like you don't handle that well. I mean,
I
I'll sit
don't.
here and bitch and moan, but you look like you were 3 levels of homeless.
Yeah, I don't. It was. Did I go live or did I? It might have just been my video. My hair was
Whatever
standing
it
up.
was, man, I was like, boy, I was about to throw a couple bucks at the screen, just to
Please,
just to
always
give you
welcome.
something.
No, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Yeah, time changes is rough for me. Like in order for me to successfully change the times, um, I have to I have to like exaggerate. Like so you mentioned getting up at like it feels like you're getting up to it at a quarter to four, like in the 3 hour. I literally have been up since about 2:45 this morning because
Mm.
in order for me to get that set back in place, then I have to get up early and I have exaggeratedly, I have to go to bed earlier in
So
order
you're
to
about a half an hour away from bedtime right now, I'm assuming.
I've been logged into work since about 4:15. So yeah, it'll be about 12:30
Wow.
or 1 when I'm logging off today. And we have this is and hopefully nobody from work is watching, but we have an event that our CEO is in town, is in Columbia from Chicago, I think is where he lives. But our CEO is in town, and we have an event at a bar here in Columbia, that I am not remotely excited about going to because I don't really do bars. And I also still have this a bit of social anxiety when it comes to being around a whole lot of people. The facility that it's at is kind of small, and so there's like already 115 120 people that have RSVP'd from Columbia that say they're going to be here, and it's just like that's too many for me. That's too many for me. Which uh, during the campaign when I was working for Matt, that was one of those things that I always feared was that there, or I had anxiety about that there was going to be a large crowd that I was going to have to interact with. And my coping skill is that I become more uh outwardly observant of what I see is going
Oh
on.
yeah, you're just an alien dropped into the midst of Earth, and you're there to observe human behavior. Hey,
Yeah.
speaking of Matt, guess who I saw this weekend?
I was gonna actually he texted me and said he was on the way to visit you.
Yeah.
What'd y'all do?
Well, at first he actually dropped in for a brief recording with our podcast.
Oh, okay. All
So
right.
we
Very good.
surprised Jamil. I told her we had a mystery guest coming,
Did she think it was me?
and no, no, and
Oh.
she actually looked grateful that it wasn't. But she, I'll tell you, we have a new episode dropping tomorrow, and it'll be our 55th episode.
Okay.
It is my favorite one by far.
Oh, really? Okay.
The We interviewed this couple who were in the air when the events of 9/11 transpired. They were crossing the Atlantic on their way home from Europe, and when the American airspace suddenly shut down, they were diverted to a tiny island town called Gander in Newfoundland, Labrador province of Canada.
Wow.
And so they landed in this small fishing town along with 39 other intercontinental airlines, right? Like this is not a town, like 7,000 people landed in this small town of 10,000 and were there for the week. And just the story that they told was one of the most heartwarming, humanity fulfilling, faith giving, uplifting stories you could ever hear. And I was just enraptured by every minute of it. That
Yeah.
whole story about Gander, Canada, actually was turned into a Tony Award winning musical called Come From Away. And it's actually on tour in the US right now. They just played up in North Carolina last night. Now they're on their way to Ohio.
Oh, that's
But I
interesting.
caught some of that musical. I'm not a guy into musicals, but goosebumps when you hear how this little fishing town came together, every last man, woman, and child, to take care of these 7,000 global passengers who suddenly descended into their little village.
That's amazing.
It Incredible story. So I'm hoping it'll drop tomorrow at 5. The editing is going quite slow. So I'll
Time change.
be
I get it.
yeah, I'll be scrambling against the clock to get it out, but it is one of the most captivating interviews we've ever conducted, and I can't wait for the world to hear this firsthand account.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I can't even imagine because I assume that they don't really have a runway that's capable of supporting
They
planes
actually
that are.
have, they do,
Oh,
because there's a military base nearby, so they actually
okay.
have an airport that was designed for practically just refueling as a layover on their way to somewhere else.
Gotcha.
So they don't have, hotel infrastructure or, maybe one rental car or a rental boat or a rental horse and buggy, whatever they may have. But they did have an airport runway that was capable of landing these planes. But then the people they were not capable of handling. So that's where the wild story comes into play.
It's amazing still because I definitely look back on 9/11 and I remember because I was in Colombia by then. I had moved here and I absolutely remember um, the the evening of because so I was working for NCR when 9/11 happened and at the time NCR we had an office in the North Tower. We had
Mm.
to we I got a phone call saying, "Are you watching the news?" Because I was third shift and I had already gone home, and I got a phone call from my manager saying, "Hey, are you watching the news?" I said, "No, I'm about to take a shower and go to bed." I said, "But what's up?" He said, "You just turn on the news." So I turned the news on just as the second plane is hitting the South Tower, And he says, I know you're already logged off, but I need you to go back in and we need to back those servers up. And I said, okay. So I jumped on there, got it done about, I don't know, half an hour before before the North Tower fell. And but that evening we went to we all got together to go to a pool hall here in Columbia, and I don't play pool, but we went and hung out. And I was just standing outside with one of my friends, Megan, and we were just looking up in the sky, and it was just for a September day. It was such a weird sensation to look up and not see a single plane flying across the sky. I take that back. Aside from every now and then, we would have a couple F-18s come from Beaufort come flying across the sky. So you would see and hear those, but there were no contrails up in the air. It was a weird situation, and that's one of those ones that I look back now, and since then I think we've had at least one time in the last 15, 20 years where the FAA has grounded all the flights. And so, but it was temporary. It was like for a few hours. So we didn't have, I think there were still planes landing during this temporary freeze. But that's the one thing I look back as being the most surreal, is the fact that there were just no planes in the skies. Just weird. So what was Matt was the intention was Matt was coming on to visit, and then did y'all do anything else besides do a little recording?
We went out to eat for lunch at
Okay.
a little local place that serves the best pizza in the world. And I love Velardo. He's awesome, but the dude is always at volume 10. So you know what I mean. So we're in this small little restaurant, and he's at volume 10 talking about abortion rights and making jokes. And I'm trying to talk low by example to try to get him down, but he doesn't live at low volume. He lives at high volume.
Yeah, I'm a Star Trek guy, so I really wish that Vulcan neck pinch was a thing, just so you can go Matt, squeeze down. Okay. Yeah, he definitely has there's almost no cap on how loud he can get. We have sat in some restaurants where his volume has been at a Spinal Tap 11, which
But it was
he's
great catching up with him.
oh yeah,
Hearing
100%.
everything that went on, and he had nothing but compliments for you as a campaign manager.
Oh, that's
And I
sweet of
tried
him.
to get some dirt on you, but he wasn't giving up any. He
I
says you did a great job.
just listen to the podcast. Plenty of dirt. Hey, I do. I also want to announce that, politically speaking, the first episode with Erica Sampson, Emily Mayer, and Kirsten Pruitt. Sorry, I mispronounced her name. It's either Kirsten or Kirsten. But with Kirsten Pruitt dropped yesterday. So
Oh,
that
it
first
did.
episode is out there. You can, I think it's, you can actually, big media, if you go to barrettgruber.com, the episode's there, but it's available across all of the podcast platforms now. And we're working on their YouTube page. We're going to get that taken care of. But yeah, that episode did drop. It's really good. You get an introduction as to who all three of them are and how they all got to know each other and involved in politics. At the end of it, they do a little segment, Two Truths and a Lie, which I was paying attention at that point. I didn't. I had to go back and rewatch the episode after doing all the editing and
Now you
everything
say
for it.
rewatch. Are they doing video broadcast of their podcast as well? Are they doing
They're
YouTube?
So there, yeah, we're gonna have it on YouTube as well. Right now, it is on Big Media Pods. So their episodes are being dropped on Big Media Pods because at the time that we tried to upload it, YouTube had not yet verified the account, which means we
Oh,
couldn't upload anything over 15 minutes.
right.
So I tried uploading it several times yesterday after it was
You can
verified.
always go back and do it later.
Yeah. I think the most important part is that they wanted to make sure that they had an episode get out there so that they could start talking to everybody. They're going to record every 2 weeks and episode every
Well,
2
look
weeks.
forward to hearing their viewpoint and how they settle into the world of podcasting. It takes a couple episodes to gain your feet.
Yeah,
So I look forward to hearing it.
it's
And I know Emily's no stranger to podcasting,
yeah. She
having
worked with
done
the
different
arena.
shows elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, yours, mine. We
Yeah.
both had her on.
And she had her own podcast with the
Yep.
Arena for a while.
Yep.
So
Yep.
she's an old hat at it. And Erica Sampson's practically your co-host at this point at All About Nothing. So I know she's got experience.
I'd keep her. I would
Yeah.
keep Erica. She's fantastic.
The
And
question is, how much are you paying them? What was the contract you guys worked out?
let's just say there is an NDA, and an NDA that is hosted by the Big Media LLC that none of us are allowed to talk about.
Okay. I think I can't wait for when we renegotiate.
is there another media conglomerate ready to pick up Black, White, and Blue in the South? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, shit, we'll go on Joe Rogan. We'll become part of his empire. I don't care. And also, again, since we're spending this half hour just plugging each other, it sounds nasty.
No way.
I'll be on with Ami, and I'll see you this Saturday as I record at Preach's Soul House, right?
Yeah,
that's what it's called.
We're gonna be recording from Soul House Art Gallery in Columbia, South Carolina on Saturday. So that episode, I think she has planned for April release because she's doing one a month now. So it's the Welcome to Wonderland pod. She had her last episode had Mr. Eric Barnes, who is the History Man. He hosts the History Man podcast, and Eric and I have become pretty good friends throughout the course of him being on our program.
I have one complaint about History Man.
Oh yeah,
and I almost reached out to him because I subscribe to the podcast, but they are in no sequence of any type whatsoever. It's all randomly strewn about. Like, I don't know what he did. It's like he took all of his episodes, jumbled them up, and threw them into the RSS feed.
Oh, interesting.
And, I kind of wanted to hear things in sequence. Like, I'd go back, even if it was 100 episodes, I'd go back to episode 1 and work my way through. But as far as I can tell, there is no discernible sequence to what he has. And it's taken a while to try to figure it out, and I just abandoned the project.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, and in fact, not all episodes are in the feed too, and I really don't know where to go get them. So there's gaps even.
Interesting.
So I was in the middle of constructing a message to him saying, "Hey, how can I get access to all of your episodes so I can get caught up? Because I love history, absolutely love history." And he was really good in your show, so that was that made me a fan. But there's just something technical about his podcast feed that's got it all jumbled up.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't noticed because I just listen to them as they come out, but I hadn't, I didn't.
So I'm going to be on Ami's podcast. It's called Welcome to Wonderland, and I'm going to talk about my unsuccessful run for president of the United States, which completely happened as far as she knows. So I'm looking forward to seeing what tale I weave in front of her and see how far I can get her to fall for it.
Here's the worst part is she does her research.
Oh shit.
On our podcast, on the All About Nothing podcast, we used to call her the corrector, because if we said something that was incorrect, whether it was me or Zach, we would absolutely get a message at work or a text and say, "Hey, what you said, such and such, that's not really right. This is correct." Or we'd be going to a baseball game, and as we're riding in the car going to the baseball game, "Hey, by the way, such and such, da 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 da." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, on the show this week, you said such and such, and it's not really that way. It's this." And I go, "Shut up." But I appreciate it.
So, hey, in our remaining minutes, I need to make sure that I get my "I told you so" in before we end our show today.
Let's go.
All right.
Yeah,
so
is this deserving of like some conspiracy theory music, or is
no, there's not conspiracy. It's just I told you. I made it. If you have Nostradamus music, play that, because I told you something would happen, and it happened.
We can do this.
Okay. Yeah, if that applies to tariffs, okay, we'll go with the X-Files. That's a stretch. You need some more sounds in that sound bank, brother.
That's probably true. Or, there's always this. We could just do here. This might be more appropriate. Little timpani drum roll.
Yeah. I'm thinking that porn music you open up with. the 70s soundtrack to some adult films. That would be more appropriate. There we go.
So go
So
ahead.
last Tuesday, when we opened up at the crack of dawn, that was the day that Donald J. Trump was going to throw some tariffs on our closest allies and neighbors, Canada and Mexico, because it's not fair. Whatever it is he thinks is not
Right.
fair.
Never fair.
And I predicted that those tariffs would be revoked nearly as soon as they were put in place. And wouldn't you know it, by the time you and I spoke again on Thursday, those tariffs were essentially gone.
Yeah.
And the stock market tanked. It rose a little bit when the news hit that he was eliminating those tariffs or putting them on hold until April, because they were going to be great partners and were willing to work with us, although neither country gave a darn thing back in return of these tariffs.
Not a single bit.
Not a single bit. And then after that little bump, it has been a huge decline ever since. And I know
Yeah.
my 401k has taken a nosedive, and I feel really, really bad for those who are retiring or have recently retired, because you're screwed. And it was all completely avoidable. In fact, there were retaliatory tariffs put into play that are still in play. Like Canada slapped some tariffs of their own, and when Donald Trump rescinded his, they went, F this. We're tired of your games.
Yep.
We're going to put surcharges on your electricity. We're stopping purchase of your alcohol. I saw a great post of an airport from Canada that was empty, where it was normally filled with tourists going to Florida this time of year for spring break. Canadian students would always go down to Florida. This year, like a ghost town, not a one. And so tourism is going to take a hit. He really just messed things up, as we all told them we would do. I actually had a guy on YouTube. YouTube is the most poisonous of the social media platforms.
100%.
And I had a guy get on and say, enjoy your wealth over the next 4 years. It's going to be great. And I'm looking and I'm going, what reality is this guy living in?
It's a trolling maneuver. It's not based at all on reality. I mean, hell, I look at some of the comments that are flying past on TikTok sometimes, and it is absolutely devoid of any reality. This, and because yesterday the stock market took what, a 900-point hit.
Yeah.
I mean, these are numbers that we haven't seen since, I guess,
We are down nearly
2022.
3,000 over the course of a month.
It's absurd. We're gonna be back into the 30s.
Do you realize that under Biden, the 4 years he was in office, regardless of all the other issues that may have gone on, the stock market nearly doubled? I mean, it was in the 20,000s and ended up in the 40,000s
all the way
by
up
the
to
time he was
44 at one
done.
point.
And we are now headed back towards recession territory,
Right.
undoing all the things that were done to stimulate the economy, get people working, get people spending. You may hate it and think that it caused inflation. Listen, that was a global phenomenon due to supply chain issues that they all worked hard to get rid of and fix. Things were getting back on track. It took longer. Obviously, coronavirus was able to destroy the global economy in a matter of months.
Yep.
It took years to bring it back. So be it. But it affected every country on the planet, every country. And now, single-handedly, he took a recovering economy and completely is driving it like a plane into the ground. Speaking of which, more planes are hitting the ground.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?
A couple more over the weekend, right? I mean, it's because of ultimately they don't know where exactly to shift the blame. But I know Trump came on, and one of the things that he said about all these plane crashes was, we go through periods where we have lots of plane crashes and then we have none, and right now we're in the one where we have lots. And it's like, really, that's almost the most absurd
That's comforting.
way of looking at
it's
it.
comforting. Yeah, we're in a period of crash. Gravity is extra hard this time of year.
That's right.
But come May, gravity will lighten up and the planes will be back in the air, no problem. The hell is that?
I don't know. But he played golf over the weekend. He has had yesterday, apparently, or at least Sunday, on his way back to the White House. He did not do his usual climb and wave where he climbs up the tall stairs to the front of the plane, the Air Force One. He actually climbed in the short stairs near the bottom back end of the plane to enter.
I'll tell you something about him that pissed me off. I mean, I get a million things pissed me off, but I heard that he was in the process of taking all of those classified documents that he had brought down to Mar-a-Lago, and then that was the cause for a whole Jack Smith case, as they were trying to cover that up, and he refused to turn them back over. He's now bringing them back. Like, he's taking all those same boxes and bringing them back to Mar-a-Lago. And I was hearing an interview about the Attorney General's report, the Department of Justice report, I should say, that came out about the Mar-a-Lago case. Jack Smith's report was published in the final days of the Biden presidency, but it was two parts. One part was published and contained pretty much all the same information that was already out in the public. You know, why was this file brought? Who were some of the witnesses and so on? But pretty much nothing new. But there was a part two to the report, which was to contain what those documents were in a redacted type of format and the motivation as to why Trump had those documents in particular and what he intended to do with them. Like, they actually had testimony that there was a reason why those documents were sitting in his golden shitter all those years, and what the plan for those documents were. And that's the part that would have been completely new information. And that part never did get released by Merrick Garland until time expired. Yeah. And that, I think, is the greatest tragedy, because I want to know, why did he feel that these documents, these boxes in particular, were his private property? How did he intend to use them?
Yeah. Well, and we know from at least one recorded conversation with a reporter that was down there where Donald Trump pulled out a document that apparently, according to the reporter, what she had her eyes on was information about nuclear missile locations, or at least where those missiles were pointed. Based on this information, Donald Trump pulls it out. He's like, maybe, at one point, maybe you shouldn't even be seeing this. I shouldn't be showing it, and so, like,
how much you want to bet he was using it for real estate development? Like, he was looking at building a hotel, but he wanted to see, is this part of a nuclear missile destination, and maybe not build or sell that information to other real estate developers.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I do often try to think of the repercussions of Donald Trump's actions, and in the end, what is something that could potentially come out of some of the behavior. And someone posted online and says, well, what if in the end of this we're friends with Russia and we bring about world peace by bringing Russia back into the table? And it's like, well, yeah, in the most befuddled, fumbling,
I'm sorry, bring them back to the table or capitulate to what they want.
Right.
There's a difference.
It's the capitulating, but that's one of the things that people try to go to. Is like, did you respect Ronald Reagan as a president and his fight against communism, both in Russia and China, or in the USSR and across other nations, Cuba, whatever? Well, yeah, of course. Well, then Russia is still a communist country. I mean, I get that they say that they have elections, but they don't. They're not free and fair elections, in the sense that Putin's name is the one that's on the list, and if anybody runs against them, they tend to fall out of windows or end up in unending prison sentences. So, it's not really a democracy in Russia. It is the USSR. It's just that they don't have all of the Soviet states that they used to have.
Well, little homework for all the trolls that think that Trump is doing some sort of master negotiation.
They're not going to do it
by being nice to Putin. Just look up the name Neville Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Just look that name up, because that is what Donald Neville Chamberlain Trump is doing right now. It didn't work then. It's not going to work now.
Yeah. Yeah, we are in a time period that is God, I keep saying it's the dumbest timeline and the most harmful timeline. This is the one that's going to end. This is going to end our multiverse. Is what goes on here. Look, Donald Trump is an existential threat. existential threat, and he continues to show just how little respect he has for the office, how little respect he has for other countries. You know, he doesn't see Ukraine as a sovereign nation. He sees Ukraine as a potential mining operation. He doesn't see, and the same as Russia. Russia doesn't have any respect for Ukraine. The reason that they don't want Ukraine to put up a fight is because they want to go in there and mine. Ukraine is the center of Europe as far as wheat and hay and whatnot. Like most of the bread plants come out of Ukraine, and Russia wants that. Russia wants access to the Black Sea, like desperately. So they want desperate access to the Black Sea without the threat of their ships being blown up, is what they want. And that's, you know, Trump's basically trying to hand that to them on a silver platter or a golden platter. Um, I don't know. It's a weird world. So, new episode, Black, White, and Blue in the South, comes out tomorrow. That's exciting.
Fingers crossed.
And new recording session of Black, White, and Blue in the South. No, I take that back. New recording session of Welcome to Wonderland with me this Saturday that she'll release sometime in April with Mr. Bill Kimmler. I'm sure we'll talk.
Wait a minute. I got to wait till April to hear this?
Well, you'll get to hear it before that, but yeah, your ego will get stroked just the same as everyone else.
This is 2025. We don't wait a month and a half to hear some outcomes.
I got bad news for you. Hey, I also wanted to tell you that now that Big Media is an LLC, I get all of the advertising email letters in the mail now asking if I need their services as a business for taxes and marketing and whatnot. That's probably the one thing I was hoping to avoid, was to never get all of those, and now they are coming in fast and furious. So
great. I know who I'm going to for campaign donations now too.
Right.
Big Media.
I could just
be funded.
Hey, I give away free campaign. I give campaign stuff away on this. If I want to say, for every appearance, that's like $150 appearance. That's like $150 to the campaign. You know.
All right.
It's what I see the value as. Okay, that's gonna do it. Big thanks to everybody for tuning into the episode today. Don't forget, you can follow me at Barrett Gruber and Bill Kimmler at Political Bill SC. You can catch us live every Tuesday and Thursday at 5:30 a.m. Eastern, because apparently we don't believe in sleeping in. Until next time, you all stay safe, be kind, and everybody keep your hands to yourself.